number are you trying to reach?
I don't know.
Hello there.
I think you have.
Why?
What, not into spooky season?
No, I am. I'm just trying to do a horror marathon, and now you're here again.
What are you going to watch?
Well, right now I'm trying to watch Scream, but if you want to join in, I have this whole stack of movies I was trying to get through. You're welcome to join in.
How about no?
Seriously?
Why don't we do something more fun?
Okay. What do you have in mind?
I'm not sure. I want it to be something that helps us embrace the dark side. I told you last year this is my one day every year that Rey lets me go out and be evil again. I gotta make the most of it.
And you keep coming to me to help you because...
You're my best friend.
Wow, that's nice of you to say.
No problem. You're basically the last friend I have left that I didn't kill.
Oh.
Hey, I thought of an idea. You people have this weird tradition where your younglings wear costumes, wander the streets, and approach strangers' homes begging for sweets. I've been working on creating a costume of my own that looks just like my grandfather's Jedi robes. I could put that on. With all these younglings running around, we could get our lightsabers, take to the streets, and...
No way. I am not doing that.
But it will help us embrace the dark side.
Look, Kylo, if you want to have a small brush with the dark side on Halloween, that's alright. Go right ahead. But if you're going to go into the street and pull a full Master Skywalker, then I think you might be turning into a Dark Lord again. Wait, were you ever even a Dark Lord in the first place?
Of course I was. Don't ever question my villainousness.
Really? How familiar are you with the legend of the Dark Lords of the Sith?
I don't like to read.
You've called yourself a Dark Lord, but do you know anything about them?
I don't need to know anything about them. My grandfather was Darth Vader.
Who turned back to the light? I think if you heard some of the stories of the truly evil Dark Lords, you would reconsider becoming one yourself.
Enough.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to strike a nerve.
You're lucky I killed all of my other friends. Otherwise, you'd already be dead. I'm leaving.
Why? Too scared to hear some of the terrifying tales of the Sith?
I am scared of nothing.
Good. Then sit down. Now tell me, Kylo Ren. You ever hear the tragedy of Darth Venamis the Experiment?
Darth Venamis was a prospective Dark Lord of the Sith. So weak and so pathetic he could have his midichlorians influenced to create life. Venamis was revealed as the secret second apprentice of Sith Lord Darth Nihilus when he attempted to execute his master's final command to kill Darth Plagueis should Plagueis best Nihilus. Venamis ambushed Plagueis at his home. The two locked blades in a fierce duel. Venamis had learned how to counter Plagueis' lightsaber forms from Tenebris and quickly gained the upper hand. Plagueis soon adapted to his foe's forms, took the upper hand, and disarmed Venamis, gaining control of the Bith's lightsaber and using it and his sabers to force Venamis to his knees. Venamis recognized Plagueis' greater power and offered the Mune his service as Plagueis' new apprentice. Plagueis refused, instead forcing Venamis to ingest a flower called a coma bloom, which aptly forced Venamis into a coma. The world went dark for Venamis. For the next 25 years, the Bith saw nothing but the occasional flash of light. For what felt like years, his mind raced, desperately trying to wake. Then, the dark embraced his thoughts, and there was nothing. Pure, unadulterated darkness finally relieved his manic mind from the brink. He was at peace. But as always, light tended to break the cold embrace of the dark, awakening him with anguish. He screamed but found no voice. He knew nothing, saw nothing, was nothing. His body and mind were being torn apart, ripped from their rest, but fighting hard to remain in the dark. Venamis had thoughts. No consciousness except in those states of agony where his body, mind, and spirit were being forced to reach for life again, without his consent. He lived and died at the behest of that force, corrupted and manipulated unnaturally around him, until he was conscious. His thoughts reawakened and began to pull him back from the void fully. Every part of his physical and spiritual being ached. When he gathered enough strength to open his eyes, he saw the long, slender frame of his tormentor, the same being who he surrendered to before long ago, in a memory that felt like an eternity away. It was Plagueis, master of the dark side. He locked eyes with the mute, for the first time in ages, letting his hatred of the Sith Lord fuel him, giving himself over to the dark side. He stared at him with his last moments and then passed fully into the Force, this time never to return again.
So if Darth Plagueis killed and resurrected Venamis, why couldn't he resurrect himself?
Unfortunately, he taught his apprentice everything he knew, and then his apprentice killed him in his sleep. It's ironic. He could save others from death, but not himself.
Then he was a weak fool. There are other ways to live post-death. Look at me.
I will give you that, my friend. You are amongst the few who is able to walk the dark path and live on after death in an uncorrupted metaphysical form. But the secret to that power was unlocked for you by millenniums of attempts at immortality, some proving to be far more fruitful than others. You ever hear the legend of Darth Noctyss?
Thousands of generations ago, in the early days of Sith life, Darth Noctiss's reign of terror began. Noctyss was so powerful and so cruel, she would have been able to conquer the galaxy and establish a permanent Sith empire with her as its empress if she so desired. However, supreme control was never enough for Noctyss. Empires and kingdoms would fall and rise. Her legacy meant nothing if it was destroyed by her successors. Noctyss therefore devoted her life to achieving one singular goal: immortality. Once she had found the secret to becoming immortal, then she would set her sights on the rest of the galaxy. She would rule not just as an empress, but as a dark goddess. Noctyss scoured the galaxy, ravaging world after world on her quest. Eventually, she uncovered a rumor about a world of pure dark power located deep within the unknown regions. Determined to let nothing stand in her way, Noctyss set out to discover the world of Exegol. When Noctyss arrived on Exegol, she traveled inside the planet's shell, where she discovered a monstrous, twisted creature lying in wait. Noctyss questioned the creature about the planet, and he revealed to her that the planet was once home to the powerful Sith Lord, Darth Sanguis. Deep within the planet's shell, Darth Sanguis had set up a laboratory for dark experiments and arcane rituals. It was said that through these experiments and rituals, Sanguis had discovered the secret to immortality. Filled with renewed fervor after hearing the tales of Sanguis, Noctyss took the creature as her servant and guide and ventured further into the planet until she discovered Sanguis's lab. Within the lab, Noctyss also found Sanguis's notes, detailing the process to perform the ritual of immortality. Noctyss studied the notes and began the 3-day-long ritual. She performed every action detailed on Sanguis's notes, ending the ritual with the necessary sacrifice of life, which, being the only other life form on Exegol, condemned her monstrous servant to death. Noctyss killed the pathetic creature and completed the ritual. She could feel it. Immortality. Satisfied with the dark power she felt infused in her being, she began to take her leave of Exegol. As she began to make her journey to the surface, she started to feel odd. Noctyss collapsed to the floor, her body convulsing and spasming uncontrollably. She writhed in pain as her metamorphosis began. When the convulsing finally ceased, Noctyss tried desperately to climb to her feet, but her body fought against her. She looked down at her hands and feet and screamed in horror. She rushed to the lab to find a reflective surface and found herself staring at the face of a monster she had willingly killed to complete her ritual. For that monster was the former Sith Lord Darth Sanguis, sealed to an immortal fate as a decrepit creature, a fate that Noctyss would now assume for eternity.
I don't recall seeing this Noctyss creature when I was on Exegol.
Little is known of Noctiss's ultimate fate. However, the legends of Noctyss and Sanguis serve as warnings for those searching for immortality amongst the arcane or supernatural. In the age of the Old Republic, however, a Sith Lord named Darth Sion proved that immortality didn't always require science or a ritual, but rather a pure embrace of the dark side.
Darth Sion was defeated. He lay face down on the battlefield, surrounded by the fresh corpses of both Jedi and Sith. The great Sith Wars exacted a heavy toll, and Sion's tolerance for pain had continued to grow throughout each time he fought in battle. He had been hurt, burned, scarred, deformed, but never killed. As Sion's body continued to writhe in agony from the mortal wound the Jedi Master had just inflicted on him, his mind continued to play with that fact. He should be dead, but the dark side is a pathway to many abilities some consider to be unnatural. Calling upon his pain, Sion rose again, his gaping wounds begging him to surrender to death. But that was not his fate. Sion continued to battle his body until he was once again face to face with the Jedi who had all but killed him. The Jedi looked upon Sion with horror. What the Jedi saw before him was not the Sith he had defeated before. It was a monster of pure evil. With hatred, rage, and pain oozing from every wound on his body, Sion screamed, embracing the pain, and with the bloodlust in his eyes, cut down his would-be killer with a single hateful blow. Sion's body continued to decompose with each passing day. He fought in battle after battle, being struck down again and again without giving in to death. It was said every centimeter of his body crawled with agony. His flesh rotted with cracks and festering wounds. His skeleton was fractured in 1,000 places as every bone in his body had been splintered repeatedly and reassembled. He was a living corpse, kept together through his sheer will. His perpetual state of undeath left him in a constant state of excruciating pain. But that was a worthy price to pay for an immortal life, one that allowed Sion to touch the dark side of the Force as fiercely as almost any Sith Lord to ever have lived.
This Darth Sion sounds like someone to aspire to. Tell me more of the legends of the Sith of the Old Republic.
Well, Sion was one of 3 Sith of his era that made up the Sith Triumvirate. He and another Sith Lord were both apprenticed to the same master. The second apprentice was also a near unstoppable being, a being of supernatural power called Darth Nihilus.
The world of Qatar was the sole colony world of the Miraluka, a Force-sensitive race that was able to see not through their eyes, but through the Force. It was a beautiful world filled with mountains, trees, flowers, and animals. Every day felt like paradise, even the day the planet would die. The balance of the Force suddenly shifted, and Qatar was under attack. Not just under attack. The planet and all its life, once so perfectly aligned with the Force, were now being torn apart. The Miraluka could now only see one side of the Force: darkness. The life of the planet was completely bled dry, consumed by the world's silent predator, Darth Nihilus. It was said Nihilus was once a man cast into shadow, forced to consume the Force energy of others to survive. That energy only made his hunger grow. He fed and fed until he was forced to even feed on himself. He called upon the dark side to encase his spirit within his mask and armor, separating it from his eroding physical body in order to continue satisfying his cravings. It was in this mask and armor that Nihilus remained an all-consuming spectral force, devouring planet after planet, people after people until the end of his days. It's said that even after his defeat, and he was no longer to maintain a physical form, Nihilus' spirit was still able to live on through his attachment to his mask. His spirit had infused with the planet Moraband's dark nexus, and he's said to haunt the planet eternally.
Are you alright, Kylo? You want me to keep going?
That's all right. I think that's enough for this Halloween. Thank you, Liam. Your stories have been inspiring.
That's not really what I was going for.
I think this Halloween is going to be the best one yet. Goodbye.
Another weird meeting with Kylo Ren.
Well, I'm getting ready to watch a video.
Really? What?
Oh, just some scary movie. Uh-huh.
Hello there. I am Kylo Ren. Cool. We're dressed as Jedi too. Oh, you want to be a Jedi? This is what happens to Jedi on Halloween. Come back here.